Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the program admin workshop. Give me a shout out if you can see anything at this time.
Hey Don, Ben Zadrowski here. I'm only here by phone.
Okay.
Rick Allen here. Looks good, Donnie.
Thanks a lot, Ray. Okay.
It's Mark in Arizona. I can see and hear.
Seems to be a little bit of echo, and I apologize for that. I'll see what I can do. We'll go ahead and kick this off right at 1 p.m. I like that. Works really good. And as people come in, we'll just allow them to come in, and we'll continue to move on and share the wealth. All right. So this is our purpose today. I tried to keep it as plain as I could, simply because Rita tells me I'm too wordy sometimes. So I'm going to blame it on her. The real purpose is for us to collaborate and come together and hopefully develop kind of an improvement culture, sharing our experiences with how we deal with motorcycle rider education in the United States. This is an independent event, so it's not sponsored by any organization. It's a group of people getting together to do what we can to communicate better and collaborate. And so the collaboration, the one real purpose of the collaboration is to improve how we do business and maybe learn from each other peer to peer. What I would like to do is first give you a little workshop etiquette. These are just general ways of making the meeting flow better. It's always good to keep your microphone muted if you're not talking. I know that some people aren't able to see what's on the screen, so you're just listening. That's great. Any way that you can join us is good. If you do have a question, either raise the hand if you can use the chat screen. And if not, just go ahead and try to interject where you feel it's most appropriate. If there are technical difficulties, please jump back on. I've assigned Rita as co-host, so if I have technical difficulties, continue the conversation and we'll continue to make everything work okay. Topics for today as sent out. There was a lot of discussion in the last meeting about rider coach instructor recruitment and how we do selection processes and some of the problems associated with getting more coaches and instructors into the business. So I think I'll open up with that. And if we could please, let's go once around the room and give a brief introduction of name, location, how you recruit coaches or instructors, and what roles do your trainers fill in your organization. So with that, I'll open up the floor.
Hi Don, this is Nick Just, Connecticut. Can you hear me?
Yes, Nick, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nick Just. I'm from the Connecticut Rider Education Program, housed in the Department of Transportation in Connecticut. You're asking about recruitment of coaches and instructors. We use kind of a host of methods, both word of mouth as well as instructor recommendations. A lot of times they have students that come through that would make great instructors. So a lot of it is instructor, our current instructor base does a lot of the recruitment. After the initial recruitment, typically it gets passed along to myself and then our motorcycle training coordinator, who's also on the call today, Ray Gallen, who would kind of start an interview process with them. I don't know if Ray wants to chime in about that process at all.
Yeah, I could. Let me add there with Nick has to say. I've always been of the philosophy that we will take everybody in. We always accept applications, and we try to never really let them go. But we don't compromise any of the training standards. But if you keep an applicant and then kind of groom them and bring them along through either having them attend additional training before they come to you, or work with some seasoned instructors, or a lot of times we'll have information sessions where they come and they learn a little bit about the program. So the heart of our recruitment is, once we get them, we're always accepting applications, and once we get them, we try to hold them, and then see how they advance. And frankly, I think the biggest issue is, once we get instructors, is to see if they're interested in teaching and if there's a location for them to teach at. And then we kind of go forward from there. The other thing just came to mind is, I think a lot of times it's helpful if you don't put too many financial requirements on the candidates early on. In other words, having them to pay to attend courses or pay to buy materials. I think you can do a lot of recruitment by allowing them to monitor, some BRCs, or step in and work with people, or giving them some simple assignments. A lot of times we'll use the BRC student workbook, send it home with some assignments to work with, and also give them a chance to do the e-course before they are officially inducted into our Rider Coach. So those are some of the things that we actually tie into recruitment. And like I say, the theme is, we take applications all the time, and we try not to let them go, because, hey, we're in the training business, and everyone is trainable after a certain amount of hours. It depends how much you want to put into it. But so I'll toss it back to Nick. He's
Yeah, Ray, I think said it pretty well. I think that the biggest hurdle that we have is the prospective instructors understanding the commitment that's involved, which tends to be a lot more of a commitment than I think most of them are prepared for, which is why Ray mentioned we keep cost out of the equation, pretty much for the most part, completely, except for the fact that they aren't paid to go through a Rider Coach prep to become an instructor, or any of the other hours that they may put into observations. We also use a mentor program. Once we have instructors enrolled in the Rider Coach prep, they're assigned to each of the candidates. A mentor is assigned to each of the candidates in case they have any questions that maybe they didn't feel comfortable asking during the actual instruction. So that has worked out better, but it is certainly hard to retain them through the whole process, through graduating. At least it has been the last, say, 5 years. I think that's it.
Thanks, Nick and Ray. Who would like to go next?
I'll go, Don. Ben Z here, New York State. We're located in upstate New York. We use trainers for a variety of things: QA, running preps, that type of thing, PDWs. The sites directly recruit. They use Craigslist. They do open houses. They advertise in the papers and whatnot. We attend a lot of events: the International Motorcycle Show, the New York State Fair, Americade, and we actively recruit from our booth folks who are interested. And a lot of sites reach out to some of their students who were standouts during class. And there's a 2-year waiting period here in New York. You have to be a licensed motorcycle operator for a period of no less than 2 years. So sites will keep track of really promising students and contact them. We've got 3 or 4 in a prep this year. So that seems to be working out pretty well. But that's remains one of the bigger issues here in New York. A lot of folks are leaving the state, so, and many of them are coaches. It's the #1 reason we continue to recruit as actively as we do. And that's it.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.
This is Christopher from Illinois, Illinois State Coordinator. We do our recruitment just a little bit differently. We don't do it at a central level. We do it at a regional level. So each of the regional centers, the program administrators are trainers. They actually operate each of the regional centers as well. So they have complete oversight of their particular areas. They all handle their recruiting slightly differently, but it's pretty common across the board. We attend events, or they attend events in their areas. They recruit from classes. They send out emails and letters to promising students from their classes, and bring them on as a range aide prior to offering them a position as a instructor. And then they generally do not charge for the materials, and we also pay for hotel expenses to kind of entice them to come and go through a rider coach prep if it's not in a local area to them. So we'll reimburse their hotel expenses. We had a pretty good program the way it runs, and it seems like we always have plenty of candidates. Just getting them to really fulfill the commitment, kind of like one of the other gentlemen said, they don't really understand the full commitment as what's involved in the rider coach position, and they will tend to teach 1 or 2 classes after they go through the prep and then may not continue on after that.
Thank you, Christopher. You got something, Ray?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions for Ben and Chris, or should we hold them till later?
No, this is a conversation. Let's dialogue.
Okay. So, hey, so Chris, I see that I hear you don't charge for materials or tuition. I think I heard that correctly. And then you do some reimbursement. Do you have any struggle with processing that reimbursement through your college system? Because you guys run through the college system, right?
Yeah, all of our stuff is done through the college system. Our program has to be completely free because we're a state-operated program, and it's in our state laws that all of our classes are offered for free. So even though a candidate might spend, $125 for a VR or IP packet, they will put the money up front for the book, and then once they complete, it's reimbursed back to them after they've completed the course. Like I said, all of our program classes are free, so they don't get charged anything. And as far as the reimbursement for the hotels, they've found it works. They don't have to be an employee of the college. It helps. So if they become a range aide prior to becoming a rider coach candidate, they're already on payroll, so they just do an internal reimbursement. But there are instances where the candidate may not be a range aide yet, and they just do that, and they just get basically reimbursed at like a contractor rate.
Okay. Does it go to them at like off of a 1099 type of thing? just in general, I know it can be cumbersome working it through an administrative process, especially if they're not an employee.
I don't believe it goes through a 1099 since it's just a basically one-for-one. They're not getting paid. They're just getting reimbursed for their hotel cost. So they just submit a receipt for the hotel and they're getting a check back for the hotel cost.
Great. All right, thanks. Hey, Ben, I didn't hear if you, are you charging tuition or charge for materials, or how's your financial side work?
Yeah, it doesn't cost the Rider Coach candidate any money to attend a prep. Travel and or hotels, meals is on them. But with 6 preps a year, they're regional, and we spread them out pretty well. So typically, the majority of candidates can commute to the prep.
Okay. And so, Ben, in New York, such a variety of cost, lodging, and locations.
Education rider.
Do you try to keep it? Oh, I'm sorry. Heard somebody else.
Well, we pay the sponsor to shut their range down for the prep, and many of them run doubles. And it's not it's expensive to shut a site down for especially the second weekend. First we run 2 4-day, Thursday to Sunday weekends, and the first weekend we shut them completely down. The second weekend, at least there'll be a class, but it's expensive to shut a site down during the season since New York has such a short season.
All right. Okay, great. All right, thank you. Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
No, that's awesome. That's why we're here. Who would like to go next? The silence is deafening. I'm a patient man.
Hey, this is Rohan from Alaska. Are you guys able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Welcome,
Okay.
Rohan. Good to see you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This is my first time attending here, and we just kind of have started revamping our MSF program and course. We have a very seasonal season because most of the time we have snow. So there's like 2 months in the year where it's gorgeous. But at the moment, what we do is we have third parties that are our MSF programs. And so the DMV does, and I work for the Division of Motor Vehicles in the state of Alaska. We have road examiners that administer MSF tests during the summer. It's usually April, May, and June that we put on these tests. But for the most part, most of our customers that are coming in have done an MSF course in the lower 48 that we honor the MSF card as long as it's within the year. And we've not really had to recruit anybody for, we've got enough examiners at DMV, and our third party businesses, there's about 3 of them that conduct MSF courses, and they don't have a attrition issue at all because they do a bunch of various different things besides MSF. And that's it from Alaska.
Well, thank you, Rohan. That's awesome. Good to hear that you have very little problems.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have trainers in Alaska, Rohan?
We do. So we have trainers at DMV that train our own staff. When we hire somebody as a road examiner, they go through a motorcycle training that's 2 days, but it's only about teaching them how to examine an applicant, not at all about instructing an applicant.
Do you use the MSF's RST, Rider Skills Test?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you. Great.
I'll jump on his bandwagon or wording, whatever you want to use. My name's Robin Meinholt with the Kansas State Department of Education, and our motorcycle programs pretty much run themselves. I don't have a lot of input besides their reports of students that pass at the end of the calendar year. The motorcycle programs in Kansas that happen, like I said, pretty much run themselves. They're not my problem child. They're good. And I'm still learning the motorcycle side because they are so self-sufficient. And I really just deal with the licensing of instructors. And that's really it. I don't have a lot of information because, like I said, they are self-sufficient and don't give me any problems.
That's good to hear too.
Hello, this is Bob Wagner. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Bob. Thank you.
Hey, I'm in North Carolina. We recruit the rider coaches mostly by word of mouth, and like everyone else, if a rider coach sees someone in the class that they think might make a good person, they try to keep track of them. We've got a 3-year requirement for having a valid license, valid endorsement before someone can be in the RCP in North Carolina. So we do a lot of recruiting if we're lucky enough to offer an ARC or a BRC2. Those don't happen nearly as often. I'm sure that's true in most states. We are very lucky in that we teach year-round, and we're very lucky that people come from out of state and they're already trained, so we're able to kind of, I guess, utilize other people's hard work. People like Ray Gollin come down and from time to time, and we get to use their abilities, and that works out really well for us. And as far as what trainers do in our organization is, until a couple of years ago, trainers did all the QA, and we had a lot of complaints in that there was kind of a 2-tiered system. And when the trainers would come out to do a QA visit, it was almost like they were playing gotcha, or at least it felt that way. So now our QA program is completely staffed by certified rider coaches. There are no trainers on that team, and everyone on the team has gone through the QA specialist program with the MSF. So I think it's going extremely well now. People are much more happy with the program, and we get a lot more positive comments and very few negative. That I always wonder about that. If no one's complaining, it always makes me wonder if we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. But it does seem to be working pretty well. So what trainers do primarily for us is they're kind of the brain trust for our updates and that sort of thing. They're always there at all of our updates to answer questions, to make sure that we get a kind of a consensus on any questions and that sort of thing. When I first took over in 2008, one of the cliches that we had in North Carolina was, someone would say something, I'd say, well, yes, that's how you do it on your side of the state, but that's not how they do it in the mountains, or that's not how Mick does it, or that's not how Bob Hoffer did it, or whatever. And so having everyone there, and we've had some interesting conversations where the trainers are actually kind of, I don't know if arguing is the right word, but discussing issues in front of everyone. And we've, from having it as transparent as that, it really works real well for us. I'm real happy with it. But anyway, I guess that's it from North Carolina. It's nice and sunny today.
Good to hear, Bob. Who would like to go next?
I'll go. I'm Mark Weiss. I'm in Arizona, and in this case, I'm actually representing a program similar to a few other states. Our state of Arizona does not have a central motorcycle safety program. We simply report riders who've gone through our classes at the end of every month, and the instructors go through some paperwork with the state, but that's all the central organization we have. So with the program I'm in, we're in Mesa, Arizona, so we're just east of Phoenix. The way we recruit coaches is partially through past students. That's a good source. Occasionally we'll put an ad up on Craigslist or something like that. And some of the people just are people who've know people who've been through class and come by and ask about becoming a coach. Primarily, what I've turned to look for is the candidate's enthusiasm for education and for sharing motorcycling with others. We've greatly de-emphasized the need for riding skill, which is something that seems to keep potential candidates away, and sometimes brings in candidates that aren't exactly what we want, when all their focus is on how well they ride a motorcycle or worry about how little riding experience they have. I focus on their enthusiasm, their communication, their desire to share what they get out of motorcycling with their students, what they get out, and the risks of riding, being realistic. That seems, if there's a high level of enthusiasm there, it seems to overcome any skill deficits, because that will develop in time. And then, just like everyone else, once we get someone, I stay in touch with them until we've got a prep coming up. And then try to get them in, and we try to make cost not an issue, but I found in the past, when the cost goes too low, then we get too many people who are interested in earning a badge and not interested in actually putting in the work. I would rather work out an agreement with the candidate where their initial cost may be a little steep, but that they're rapidly paid back through being paid for teaching. Try to make it attainable, but not too easy to get. We've gotten better candidates that way. And as far as the role trainers fill in our organization, well, I guess we do a rider coach prep once per year and a couple of workshops. So I guess we have someone working in the rider coach trainer role about 12 days out of the year. Occasionally we get a wandering trainer who comes in and helps out too. That's always nice. But beyond that, all the coaches actually have input to how our program runs. Everybody has a voice, from the most experienced coach. I've got a coach here who is probably in the 20 years of experience as teaching rider education, all the way down to coaches who went through class this year, so are at about the 6-month range, and everyone has an equal voice in what goes on. And I think that helps with retention as well, when no one's put on the back seat. And so that's how we do things here.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. Who would like to go next? Don't make me ask, Laura. Come on.
Was that you just asking? Laura Holland, the Twin Cities metro area of Minnesota. Our recruiting process is mostly people coming to us either via referral from other rider coaches or just having an awareness of our program. Much less commonly, we get candidates that have been recruited or self-referred from having taken one of our other classes. The role that trainers play in our program, primarily conducting rider coach preps and professional development. Although I will say that this past season, we added a second layer of interviews using rider coach trainers. And then just kind of general input on program mechanics and so on, I guess, would probably be the other role. And I just have not to derail the introduction process here, but I do have just a question for the group that my boss actually requested. And that was to ask if anyone is using their NHTSA 405F funds for candidate recruitment.
This is Nick from Connecticut. No.
So I guess that begs the question, why or why not? If you don't mind.
So in Connecticut, the allocation of 405F funds is so small that typically to do much of anything with it, I have to save it up for a few years, and then they get upset that I haven't spent it. We've also been getting such hassle from our regional office on how that 405F money is spent that I've pretty much dedicated it exclusively to share the road messaging, because that seems to be all that NHTSA is interested in us using it for. Without hassle, at least that's been my experience. So that's kind of why we don't use it for much of anything else.
So Sarah Bazell from Wisconsin has chimed in from the chat saying that their RCP funds have always been pulled from state funding sources, so they are not able to use the 405F funds. Anybody else have input on the topic? If not, I think we're down. How about Ken? Would you like to join in here, or are you capable? And anybody else? I know a couple people don't have microphone and video capability, so.
Hey, Don, Ken Crumpler here, Commonwealth of Virginia. It helps if you unmute your mic, you know, kind of technically challenged here. So again, Ken Crumpler, Commonwealth of Virginia. Most of our recruiting is done word of mouth. A lot of times a student will get, after they finish their BRC, are very excited about it, something they want to pursue. Unlike Bob down in North Carolina, we don't have the 3-year wait. So some of those come through, and like anything else, some of them work out great. Some of them, you know, thank you and have a nice day. We are in a major transition in the Virginia program right now. As many of you know, for many years, the basic operations of the Virginia Rider Training Program was contracted out. As of July 1st of this year, all of those responsibilities have come in-house under DMV, the Highway Safety Office, where I am. So we're adding staff, and we will take over the provision of rider coach prep classes as well. We are currently delayed with that a little bit because we are still yet to upgrade to the BRCU. So we're in transition. Right now, I have to worry more about getting all of my rider coaches up to the BRCU standard, rather than recruiting new rider coaches. So it's my hope next year that in the spring, I can do a rider coach prep for BRCU for new candidates, decentralize it, make it a lot more regional, and again, practice the schedules that others have talked about, you know, the 2 weekends or et cetera, where in the past it was very rigid. It was the straight 10-day program, taught twice a year at one location. And if you couldn't make that, then have a nice day. So hopefully we're going to change that quite a bit. And as much as what role do trainers fill in your organization, my attitude is with that as the state administrator, I work for them. I need to facilitate and make a program where they can go out and train new riders as quickly, effectively, and efficiently as possible. So again, and if that's done, if classes is done well, then that will encourage others to perhaps want to become a rider coach as well. So that's my 2 cents. I hope it helps. Right now, again, I'm just trying to get ideas from everybody else because, again, my program is in such transition.
Just one question real quick, Ken. Has your trainers all been updated to the BRCU?
They have not. That's job one right now. That's okay. Job one. Again, July 1, 2021 is when I want to be completely upgraded to the BRCU. And so right now I have to figure out an efficient way of getting every one of my trainers. You know, I certainly do have a handful of rider coaches who are qualified for the BRCU, but the vast majority are not. So if anyone in the past has gone through that transition and can give me sound advice on how to make that happen effectively, I am all ears.
Ben Zadrozny here. If you'd like to give me a ring, I can give you what I thought was a good. We transitioned about 280 coaches, and we transitioned 5 rider coach trainers. A couple of them are on this call, I would imagine. If you want to give me a ring, my cell phone is 518-369-4391. I'd be happy to share with you how we did it. I think Ray was happy with the transition of New York.
Absolutely. I'll be giving you a call a little bit later on. Thank you for that. And I will definitely follow up.
And that, my friends, is how this works the best. So, Jay, you just jumped on. Would you like to share as part of your introduction?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Ken, we kind of had a similar issue here. I'm from Kentucky, you know, about half of our instructors or coaches had the BRCU, about half didn't when I took over. We did make the full transition, you know, afterwards. And actually, we were able to do it in conjunction with some, you know, kind of filling slots with the new instructor classes that we had going on. During our transition from, you know, Eastern Kentucky University, kind of administering the program, to doing it in-house with the Justice Cabinet here, we did lose a few sites. You know, so some of our instructors weren't in areas that we had a site. It did kind of shrink the total number of instructors, but that's actually building back up. A lot of the ones that were on our list, you know, when I got them from EKU, you know, guys that had kind of retired, quit doing it, moved, you know, some of the military guys that had, you know, been sent out of the area, you know, for different assignments and things. So it did pose some challenges, you know, right at the beginning. But, you know, one way that you can help fill in, at least, you know, when you do your new instructor ones, you know, if you got open slots, you can always throw in some of your coaches that do need the update, you know, during those classes as well. And that kind of helped us out a little bit. So just a little food for thought, you know, there, Ken, for you. In terms of recruiting, you know, coaches and instructors, the biggest thing we do is our site providers actually kind of, you know, are the main ones that kind of talk them up. And then, they do a lot of the recruiting side of it, there. A lot of them are former students of the program. They may be, other friends, cohorts, what have you. But a lot of ours is mainly word of mouth, is how we've been able to get the coaches, a lot of applications in. Actually, we're about ready. In October, we're having another new instructor class, and then probably in like April, May of next year, we'll have another one. I've got, those dozen for this class already, ready to go, and I've got another like 2 dozen with applications and, their driving records and stuff waiting to go for the next class. So it's, we've got a pretty good pipeline now, largely in part due to the site providers. So I would really lean on them to kind of identify, people that they want to work with. And by doing that, it kind of makes everybody a little happy. The trainers in our organization, mainly, like I said, they're doing the new instructor classes. They also kind of do our yearly update, for the coaches. So if there's any changes, to the curriculum, kind of pointing out common misconceptions, things of that sort. And, we haven't kind of started it yet, but our next big push for next year is kind of really honing in on our quality control program. And the trainers are going to play a big part in that as well. With, we're looking to do some peer review, type deals where, coaches will go out kind of, did they have a checklist of, did they see this or did they not see this when, a coach was supposed to do something. Sometimes it applies, sometimes it didn't. The trainers would then review those and then kind of, get back with the coaches that were observed and, address any, anything that, may have been lacking and, praise the things that they did very well, within the, within that observation. Kind of taking it from sort of my days teaching, in middle and high school.
Anything else, Jay?
I mean, as far as the coaches and instructors, that's, the big thing, that we've got going on here right now. But like I said, quality control is going to be our next, big one to tackle, next year. It was going to be this year, and then all the COVID stuff, kind of threw a monkey wrench into everything.
I understand. So is there anybody that hasn't had the opportunity to share about their program yet? I know we have a couple people on the phone. I don't know if they're capable of adding or not. And if so, if we've gone through everybody, let's go ahead and open it up. Does anybody have any general questions they would like to throw out for the group?
Hey, Don, Ray Gallin here. I've got one. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. So certainly things have changed even over the last couple of years about how we run rider coach preps, or at least how many candidates we can recruit. I'm curious to hear, and Don, I don't know if you can maybe just send out a yes/no survey, but do you think that you've changed the how you choose a candidate to attend? Like, will you take weaker candidates now, especially if you only had 8 that are ready to come on? I mean, previously, I can remember, well, 20 years, 15, 20 years ago, we would have 15 to 20 ready to go the first day, and we could be really selective. So I'm curious to see, and you may have to do it as a undercover answer, if people, but that you let weaker candidates come in. And then my next question would be, you know, there's a big step from during the Rider Coach Prep after peer teaching for them to go on to student teaching. And I have found lately that sometimes there's candidates that are not ready to go on to student teaching, but are still a decent candidate. They have that attitude, like we talked about earlier. Let's see who brought that up. Mark did. You know, Mark brought up the attitude and the willingness, and they're right there. You know, they got a good heart, but they're just not ready to go to the second phase. Have anyone explored or used this method that I have used? That I will tell a candidate, you're not ready. I need you to do another week, maybe work with some stuff, and then come back to me, and we'll do your student teaching a week later at an existing BRC. So I guess the whole thing is a little bit more using more flexibility. Do you think that you're taking, you know, weaker candidates and then, you know, putting time into them to make them happen, especially if you have such a low enrollment in the Rider Coach Prep? That's it.
Well, I can say what I've been doing is not taking the weaker candidates. You know, and it's hard to tell ahead of time because they're not in the class situation, they're not working with a group. But I've gotten actually more selective. I used to work for a much larger program, and we would take everybody. We would do multiple preps a year, and just the people that weren't good candidates just took so much time and energy from the others, took up so much of the resources, and they didn't turn into decent coaches after it was done. So the last 6 or 7 years, maybe 8 years, I've stayed away from those candidates if they didn't impress me with their enthusiasm for the program, showing up to be a course aide ahead of time, things like that, asking lots of questions. I prefer that the Rider Coach Prep classes be a little bit smaller, but with higher output candidates in the class. And the primary indicator to me that it's gone well is when we do get to the student teaching phase. If I'm actually working less during student teaching, it tells me I've got a good group because they're troubleshooting on their own. And I do occasionally have one of those candidates that I can tell has the enthusiasm, they just aren't ready yet. And I do the same thing. We talk, and I have them sit in and observe the final weekend so they continue to participate with the class. Or it's not necessarily the final weekend. I usually do a 9-day class here. So they'll sit in during that, but I'll have them do their evaluated student teaching. We'll set up on a different weekend, and I'll bring them out. They'll usually be the third coach in that situation. So this way it gives them a chance to come out for a couple of classes, and if they want to, and just work out exactly what they need to do so that they're ready.
Great, thanks. So Mark, Bill, just for clarification, how small of a number will you start a Rider Coach Prep with?
Absolute minimum would be 4. I wouldn't go lower than that, and because if you have 4, when you get the student teaching, they're doing every other exercise. Although the rotation is a little slower in the classroom, but there isn't much off time for them in between what they're supposed to be doing. So I wouldn't go below 4. I think I might have had a class of 4 about 7 or 8 years ago. Usually I'm in the 8 to 10 category, and that seems to work very, very well.
Yes, so like along those lines, even for peer teaching is very difficult with 4. Do you, would you, if you had 4, here's my big question, because so if you had 4 candidates, but then you had, let's say, 3 others that were weak that you could carry through peer teaching and then let go, would you take them to help your peer teaching?
If I knew, well, if I felt they were going to be weak candidates from the start, probably not, because the 4 coaches are going to need all of my help to get them ready for student teaching. And if I've got 1 or 2 other candidates who I don't think are ready to be there yet, the four solid candidates aren't going to get that help. And if they get it, then they turn out to be ready. Usually with 4, even with 6, sometimes I'll try to have another coach, get an extra coach or 2 in, even if just, especially during peer teaching, to be riders instead of being coaches, just so that I don't have 2 coaches trying to coach 2 riders, because you don't end up having a realistic enough class situation. And I'm remembering, I think with the class of 4, I actually had them do a lot of their peer teaching solo. And I don't think we ran it quite continuously. I think we stopped and started a lot to discuss what was going on and how things would look.
Okay. Thank you.
So if I could, just a quick poll here, and I think I'll send out a poll later that gets to some of the questions Ray has suggested. How many people still do the full 7 to 10 day prep in one shot, and how many people do just weekend preps where you'll have a 3 or 4 day weekend followed by another 3 or 4 day weekend followed by another 3 or 4 day weekend?
Weekends here.
Because generally about half of my candidates are coming in from out of state, I've gone to the consecutive day. I do 9 consecutive days.
I found here in Virginia that, again, it was set up that it was twice a year with the consecutive days, that a lot of qualified candidates could not make that class. They could not do that commitment. So a lot of really good potential riders and coaches were being left out because they couldn't burn all of their leave time from their full-time jobs to come and do this. So I am, when we sponsor sites in the future, it's going to be up to the site on how they want to do it, but I'm going to encourage weekends.
I have a response from Sarah in Wisconsin. They do consecutive weekends. Laura Holland, 3 day weekends. And the same for Jay in Kentucky. Jay, can you express what you mean by weed folks out prior to getting them into the prep from the sites?
Yeah, as I said, a lot of our referrals to the coaches come from the sites themselves. So a lot of them, they know the instructors that are already there. Typically, it's sort of a friend of a friend, or like I said, prior students. So there's already a relationship of sorts kind of built into this. What's kind of the way we do it. Then when we have them do the act as a coach's aide for a couple of weekends at least, before getting them into the prep. It gives the coaches that are there, it's almost like an interview process within that kind of job shadowing, time frame. the site providers get a chance to kind of meet, the candidate, the other coaches that they would be probably, typically working with, kind of, get a feel for them. And, if the site provider or the other coaches think they're not, a strong candidate, then they kind of talk to them about it, or they call me and let me know. And, we kind of, I guess the joke is, maybe instead of a motorcycle, you need to go find a boat, kind of thing. But like I said, having a good relationship with the site providers and, kind of their core group of coaches at each site, that helps to sort of weed out, lesser candidates along the way. And then you can pretty well take however many you need and then fill the classes.
Do you have the potential candidates go to another site to be evaluated, or do they come from a site and stay at a site?
Usually they're at, whichever site they would probably, because the way everything's pretty laid out fairly geographically, there's, one site every couple 100 miles, here in Kentucky right now, other than Louisville. So, just for logistics purposes, candidates typically are going to wind up working, job shadowing at the location that they would most likely be, working at on a regular basis. So like I said, it kind of becomes a job interview of sorts, along the way.
Okay, good input. I'm going to share the screen again. I'm sorry, I kind of been playing around here. And this is going to be the last slide of the day. Once again, asking if anybody has, daggone it, try this again. I apologize for that. Does anybody have any more alibis or important clarifications before we shut things down?
Illinois got our program going.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we start our first class this weekend.
That's awesome to hear. Okay, how does everybody feel about a future meeting next month, September 24th? A plan? What I would ask of you all, if you have a particular topic, idea, recommendation for us to talk about, please shoot it to me so that we can kind of distribute it and everybody can have a read ahead on potential talking points. And the last thing that I will share with you is I got notice today from IFC, which is, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, it's German, but their two-wheel motorcycle safety organization in Germany holds a conference every 2 years, and their 13th annual, semi-annual, International Motorcycle Conference is going to be broadcast online this year, allowing, I think, anybody to attend for free. All you have to do is go out to the website, sign up, and they'll send you an email and the dates and times. And you can get a program to download so you can see what the topics are and when the presentations will be available. And it will culminate eventually, as it works through the month of September, on October 6th, where they will have a live webinar and allow people to ask questions about the seminars and presentations that are made through September. So I recommend you go to www.ifc.de and sign up for that opportunity. And the reason why I will tell you this, besides being selfish, is that some of the information that's put out there is far beyond what we may get about rider education or the future of motorcycling in the rest of the world. So I'll recommend that to everybody to at least go out, take a look at the program, and see if they would like to attend. And you don't have to attend every presentation, but you can certainly, pick and choose what you would like to be involved with and maybe get something that you can share with others along the way. And with that, we are right at 2 p.m. And so I'm going to call this to a close. I thank you for your participation as always. It's great to learn from so many great people, and I hope to see you again next month. Again, this will be posted on the website for those that can't attend, or if you'd like to share it with somebody, you can go ahead and do that. Any alibis? If not,
Thank you, Dan.
go ahead.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. And with that, I'll say goodbye and see you next month. Remember, you can always join us at Tribe Talk Happy Hour on Wednesdays and Tribe Talk on Sundays when it's scheduled. See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.